Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. His Majesty King Abdullah met with the President of Ghana, Nana Addo, who is participating in meetings held in Aqaba to discuss international efforts to combat terrorism and extremist ideology, especially in West Africa. The two leaders emphasized the importance of increasing coordination and strengthening regional and international cooperation in the war on terrorism with a holistic strategy. The two sides also discussed ways of enhancing relations between the two countries in various fields. Prime Minister Hani Mulkawi received a military Brazilian delegation headed by Defense Minister Jungmann for talks on fostering cooperation mainly in defense and border security fields. Mulkawi briefed the delegation on Jordan's efforts to combat terrorists within a holistic approach, as well as efforts by the Jordan armed forces and security agencies to preserve the kingdom's security, stability, and borders from terrorist groups. Jungmann voiced his country's desire to benefit from Jordanian expertise in border control and protection. The two sides also discussed developments in the Middle East and the peace process, whereby the visiting minister noted his country's support of the two-state solution. The government condemned the ongoing Israeli violations against AlAqsa Mosque, Al-Haram Sharif, after extremists were allowed into the courtyards. State Minister for Media Affairs and Government spokesman Mohammed Al-Momani said an official diplomatic letter of protest was sent to the Israeli Foreign Ministry. He says such provocative and irresponsible acts are rejected and violate Israel's obligations as the occupying power in East Jerusalem under international law. Al-Momani stressed the need to preserve Jerusalem's historical status and respect Jordan's role as custodian of the holy sites. Lower House Speaker Atif Al-Tarawni adjourned the House session after a quarrel took place between MPs who argued about raising fuel and electricity prices. A number of MPs signed a memorandum stating, amongst other issues, that the Parliament will not discuss the 2018 state budget draft up until the government retracts its decision to raise electricity and gas prices. Commenting on oil derivatives, Prime Minister Mulkawi said his government is committed to direct subsidies to those who deserve them only if barrel oil price exceeds $100. A Jordanian man abducted in Syria by an armed faction and went missing for several days was released today and returned home. An official source at the army said the Military Intelligence Directorate of the Jordan Armed Forces said Manhal Ahmad Abdullah Hamdan free from his kidnappers who tortured him and demanded ransom for his release. The source also voiced utmost keenness to enforce security to protect citizens, vowing to use the strongest type of force to deter gangs, whatever their goals or allegiances are. Prior to his abduction, Hamdan was living and working in southern Syria for a while, running his own farming business. Jordan and the United States inked a grant agreement worth $475 million as part of the U.S. 2017 economic aid program to the kingdom. Minister of Planning and International Cooperation Imad Fakhoury, who signed the agreement with Jim Banhart, director of the USAID, said the aid will be distributed to support high-priority development projects in the 2017 budget in a bid to reduce its deficit. Fakhoury also pointed out that a remaining amount of $337 million will be allocated to foster economic development, boost social sector quality, and bolster democratic accountability. The combined aid grants will bring the total of this year's U.S. economic non-military aid to Jordan to $812 million. Syrian Kurdish YPG fighters said its forces fully liberated the eastern countryside of Deir ez-Zor from Daesh in cooperation with U.S. forces and Russia. The YPG said the offensive in Deir ez-Zor province, which borders Iraq, has focused on territory east of the Euphrates River. And on the western bank, the Syrian military has waged its own attack against Daesh with support from Russia. Russian tomahawk bombers struck terrorist targets, including warehouses, vehicles, and bases. The UAE denied reports that an Abu Dhabi power plant was the target of a Houthi missile launched from Yemen. The National Emergency Crises and Disaster Management Authority said there was no truth to the claims made by Houthi officials. The Disaster Management Authority in a statement said the UAE's air defense system is capable of dealing with any threat of any kind and urged the public not to pay attention to such reports. Tokyo's park, a popular spot for viewing cherry blossoms each spring, was transformed by pink LED lights hanging from the trees, resembling the pretty flowers ahead of the Christmas season. The over 420,000 lights on the 2.2-kilometer street are powered by cooking oil from local restaurants and residents in the neighborhood. The project, dubbed Illumination for All, started 7 years ago when Japan suffered from electricity shortage triggered by the Fukushima nuclear disaster. Since then, the event has become an annual one to show that electricity can be generated locally. Each year, around 5,400 liters of used cooking oil is collected. In sports, and the third round of the FIS Snowboard Big Air World Cup in Germany. Marcus Cleveland of Norway gained his first World Cup points of the season with a total score of 191.75. Yuri Okubo of Japan took second place, while Kale Jorveletto of Finland settled for third. In the women's competition, Carla Soumeni of Switzerland won her first World Cup Big Air event with a total score of 175. Miyabi Onitsuka of Japan took second place, and Christy Pryor of New Zealand came in third.
Unsere Top 3.
And finally, for a quick look at the weather, moderate conditions prevail across the kingdom tomorrow as temperatures remain above their seasonal average, while winds will be southeasterly moderate. Amman can expect a high of 21 degrees Celsius, dropping down to 10 at night. In the Gulf of Aqaba, it will remain hot with mercury levels at 30 degrees, sliding down to 16 at night. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Nancy Khair. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.